Okay, before we get into the progression question model, we've got to talk about a progression mindset. You as the life group leader have to have the right mindset as you begin to facilitate your group discussion. So you've got to develop a new mindset. And that means that you don't have to have all of the right answers. You don't have to solve everyone's issues or problems with the text, because you are the guider of the process. And that means that as the guider of the process, you are committing to being the guider of the process. That is key. And then what your job is to manage the flow and the pace of the discussion. Now, as a coach, I'm a life coach, and we use conversation coaching models all of the time. And I'm going to share with you a model that we use. It's called the GROW model. And it's an acronym that stands for, the G stands for, what are the goals of the person? R stands for, where is that person at now? What's their reality now? The O stands for, what are some obstacles to reaching their goal? And then the W stands for who, what, when, and how are they going to reach their goals? Now, the client doesn't necessarily know that I'm using this model in my head, but what it does is it helps me keep the conversation moving forward. And so just like as I use a GROW model as a coach, you're going to use the progression question model to help you facilitate your life group discussion. And here's the progression question model. There's 4 types of questions that you have to remember. There are connection questions, dissection questions, reflection questions, and inspection questions. And we're going to go through each one of those individually, starting with connection questions. Now, these are really fun and engaging, lifestyle, current issue kind of questions. And the key here with connection questions is you want to use your active listening skills. And that means you're using a pattern of listening that is active, not passive. And it's where you're staying engaged in the conversation, listening attentively, and making the other person feel heard and valued. Now, you're going to use connection questions as you walk in the door of your life group, or maybe as people walk in your door. And you're going to listen well to the conversation at hand, because this is when small talk happens. And this is where you want to interact, listen well, hear the dialogue, and you're going to take that through your text discussion. This fosters connection, not only with the conversation, but with each other in the group. So you want to make sure that your connection questions are fun, engaging, lifestyle, current issue type of questions, and your key here is using your active listening skills. The next type of question, the dissection questions, those are questions that you're going to ask, what did you observe from the passage? Now, the key here to asking dissection questions is to know the personalities and dynamics of your group. So we're going to go through some personalities and dynamics and give you some tools to help you manage those types of personalities in your group. And the first personality and group dynamic you may encounter is someone known as the dominator. And you want to make sure when you first start your life group that you do a little housekeeping, and that maybe you establish a rule where everyone gets to share before someone shares twice. That's a good way to diffuse a dominator in your group. You also can use humor and gentle correction. You might say something like, Bob, you've used up 2 weeks of your conversation time asking questions and talking. Let's let somebody else have a chance. You can judge that for yourself in your group. You also can finish dominators' thoughts quickly to allow others to respond in your group. You can call on specific people to answer questions. Another really important key to diffusing a dominator is to use body language and positioning. This means that if you know that you have a dominator in your group, you're going to want to not allow that person to sit across from you. So you'll want to make sure that you're sitting right next to that dominator. They don't have to know that you're doing that, but you'll want to sit next to them, because if you lock eyes with a dominator, they're going to take that as a sign that you are right on board with what they're saying, and they will continue to dominate the conversation. So if you sit next to a dominator, you can use a gentle touch on the shoulder, or you can touch their knee, and you can say, let's let someone else have a chance to share. So body language and positioning is key. And then if that doesn't work, you're going to have to talk to them privately. If you let a dominator go unchecked in your life group, people are going to be discouraged to share, they might stop coming, and they might eventually leave your group. So here are a couple more strategies if you have to take the conversation outside of your group with a dominator. You might propose to them, what if you choose to let everyone answer the questions first? Or you might say, what if you answer only one out of three questions? Or you might say, what if you choose to maybe just limit your answer to 60 seconds? Because worst of all, if dominators continue, people won't be able to process the truth together in the group, and their pursuit of God may be stunted. And we don't want that in our life groups. Now, another personality dynamic of a group you might encounter, these people are called hiders. And these people need gentle coaching and encouragement to start allowing other people to get to know them. Most hiders are really afraid to share in a group. So maybe an idea you might use if you have a large group is to break into pairs so hiders can get to know other people in the group. Hiders usually have very profound insight and input for a group, and you don't want to miss that by them being quiet and silent. The next type of personality or group dynamic, this person is called the scoffer. And this person is the one who is critical in your group. Criticism will ruin a group and it really does become contagious, and it can really derail an inexperienced facilitator. Just so you know, scoffers are usually complaining more about their own perceptions and hurts than what they are criticizing. So if you think about it, it's really all about them. You can use humor to diffuse the power of the criticism, and scoffers require some consistent care and nudging. You might have to have an honest conversation outside the group to help them see how their negativity is impacting the group. The next type of personality group dynamic you might have, I call this the TMI, needy revealer person. This is the person that gives too many details that sometimes embarrass the group, and the group just really isn't sure how to respond. So you want to acknowledge their pain, and you want to help them find proper context for it. And you may have to take a discussion outside of your group if necessary. TMI, needy, revealy people, they really work best with facilitators who are very direct yet gentle at the same time. Now, the final group that I want to talk to you about, these people in your group are the problem solvers. Now, these folks, they try to fix other group members' problems with pat answers and solutions. And so a way to diffuse this situation is to remind them of your housekeeping rules and help them to involve rather than solve. And a good reminder for a problem solver is that everyone is at a different place on their faith journey, and everyone needs time to work it out and discover their own solutions. So those are the ways that you can handle those types of personalities and group dynamics as you're going through the dissection questions. And now the next type of question in our progression question model are reflection questions. And these are questions that help connect our experiences to the text. The key here is asking follow-up questions. So when somebody's sharing their experience, sometimes it can get a little complicated. And so you want to ask for clarity in a very non-judgmental way. You might say something like, can you tell us more about that? Or what do you mean by that? Or what about your experience has you thinking about the passage this way? Key here too in asking follow-up questions are to utilize your under-shepherds here. Allow them to ask follow-up questions as well. And then you, as the life group leader and the under-shepherds, will be working together as people work through these reflection questions. The next type of question, inspection questions. And these are questions that are application questions for personal transformation. And the key here is focus on self-awareness. And you might ask questions like, What challenges does this stir up inside of you? What would have to be different in order for you to change? Or what would happen if this didn't change? Or you might ask questions like, what are you currently noticing about yourself? How significant is this for you? What new awarenesses are you walking away with from our time today? Questions like these help the person make application from the text to their life, and this is what leads to our ongoing spiritual transformation. And this is what the goal is of our life group community. So just a refresher, we have 4 types of questions in our progression question model. The connection questions, which are fun, engaging, and the key is utilizing your active listening skills. We have dissection questions. What did you observe from the passage? The key here in these types of questions is to know the personalities in your group. We have reflection questions, helping us connect our experience to the text. And the key here is to ask follow-up questions. And then the last question in our model, those are inspection questions. Those are the application questions for personal transformation. And the key there is to really focus on self-awareness. So I want to leave you with one final tip. I know I've given you a fire hose of information, but I want to leave you with a reminder to not freak out, because facilitating well is a skill, and skills have to be developed. So give yourself some grace. Grow, learn from your mistakes. The hardest internal shift that you're going to have to make is to go from being a problem solver, telling person to being a person who asks great questions. Because when you're the problem solving teller person, you are the expert. But if you're the asking person, your group is the expert. And that's when you're going to see transformation. So we're going to send you off to facilitate your groups with these tools in your tool belt, to be an encourager. And I want to remind you of the last tip that I have for you, and it's called the 70-30 rule. You want to make sure that as the facilitator of your group, you are only talking 30% of the time. And that allows 70% of the time for your group to have a very successful discussion. So now go and lead your groups well, and don't freak out.